Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time of the day you are watching this video. I hope you're all doing fine and healthy. Before we go into the topic, let me introduce myself. I am Amit Oberoi, and I am a program manager in Visio's product group. One of my key responsibilities is the integration of Visio and Microsoft Excel. I have my colleague with me, Prateek. Hi, Prateek.
Hey Amit, hello everyone. I'm Prateek and I'm program manager in the Visio team. Among other things, I'm leading the effort of integrating Visio with different Microsoft 365 products. Back to you, Amit.
Thanks, Prateek. So before I talk about this session, let me ask all of you this. Do you create diagrams like flowcharts, organizational charts, cross-functional diagrams or swim lanes, process maps, hierarchy diagrams, etc.? Have you ever felt that it's too cumbersome to create those diagrams manually and then keep them up to date with all the things and changes happening around you? If the answer to these questions is yes, you are in the right session. We are bringing together the power of Visio and data-driven diagramming right within Excel using Visio's data visualizer add-in. In this session, Prateek and I will talk about how Visio is an integral part of Microsoft 365, how you can use Visio's data visualizer add-in to create diagrams in Excel, and if you have Visio Plan 2 license, how you can use data visualizer capabilities in Visio Desktop. All right, as I just mentioned, Visio is an integral part of Microsoft 365 ecosystem. It integrates really well with several different Microsoft applications. Visio allows you to create diagrams, collaborate on them with your team members, link them to data, see metrics on top of the diagrams that you have created. It integrates with all of these different apps within Microsoft ecosystem. You can create, view, and edit your diagrams within Teams. You can add them as tabs and collaborate with your team members via real-time co-authoring. You can embed Visio diagrams in Power BI dashboards and bring them to life. If you want to automate your business workflows, you can export Visio process diagrams as flows in Power Automate. Data in Excel can be connected with existing Visio diagram, or the new diagram can be automatically created from data in Excel. We will talk about this in detail in this session today. Visio diagrams can be exported to Excel, PowerPoint, Word for presentation, compliance reports, process manuals, and audit reports. Visio's online plans by default come with OneDrive storage, where you can store your files to collaborate. And last but not the least, both Visio for web as well as desktop allows you to create Azure diagrams using the out-of-box Azure stencils and templates. Okay, now let's talk about Visio's data visualizer add-in in Excel. In this section, I'll talk about how you can create data-driven diagrams using the add-in, and I will also talk about our current community engagement with the very rich MVP community. Using Visio's data visualizer add-in, you can automatically create all the diagrams from Excel tables. When I say complete diagram, that means all the shapes, connections, and data linking right inside Excel. For users to have an easy start, we provide editable sample data for quick start. We support 3 different diagram categories: basic flowcharts, cross-functional flowcharts or swim lane diagrams, and organizational charts. We also allow users to open the diagram in Visio for web or Visio desktop app for advanced editing. So let's talk about data visualizer add-ins journey so far. We previewed at Ignite 2019, and after that preview, there was only one major item on our roadmap. But as soon as we started receiving really good feedback from you guys, based on that, we started adding more capabilities. Hey, and by the way, I would like to thank you all for providing us the feedback and this partnership on the journey so far. One of the very first feedback we received was how we can add this add-in for everyone in the organization, so not all the employees have to get it from store. We enable centralized deployment with tenant admins can add this add-in for the whole organization, and it will start showing up in the admin manage section for the get add-ins. As the add-in started gaining popularity, we started hearing feedback from our users around the world that they want to use this add-in in different languages. I am very happy to share that this add-in is now available in 26 languages, including English. Single sign-on. Users who are logged in with work or school account in Excel will automatically be signed in into the add-in and given the full capability experience. Another piece of feedback we started hearing was about the discoverability of the add-in, that this add-in sets 2 or 3 menus down in Excel. We created add-in ready templates for each of the diagram category and shipped them to Excel Backstage. To make it even more discoverable and easily accessible, we have now added this add-in to Excel's ribbon so users can invoke it with a single click. And now I am very happy and very pleased to announce that Visio's data visualizer add-in for Excel is generally available. You can go download this add-in for PC, for Mac, and use it on web. Go to aka.ms dv add-in GA and you can get the information there.
For demo, let's look at different ways on how one can get the add-in. So you can go to insert menu in Excel and then go to get add-ins. This will launch the Office add-in store. So if the add-in is deployed centrally into your tenant, what that means is, as a tenant admin, I can deploy a particular add-in for everybody in the organization. So in that case, users don't have to go and get this add-in one by one. It will automatically start showing up in their admin manage section. So if you can see here that this add-in Microsoft Data Visualizer add-in is enabled for everybody who is part of Microsoft tenant. That means who has a Microsoft work account. So all they can do is simply go to get, Office add-in store and then admin manage. This will show up. If this is not enabled by your tenant admin for everybody, you can simply go to store and type keywords like Microsoft or Visio or Data Visualizer. If you do search, that add-in will actually show up on the top. You can simply add the add-in from here, and once you accept licensing and privacy terms, this add-in gets inserted into your Excel sheet. And once the add-in is inserted the first time, it will start showing up in recently used add-ins or my add-in section. So as a user, you don't have to go to the store every time to get the add-in. You can simply click on this drop down and then insert the add-in from here. Another way for user to get the add-in will be to go to the file menu and then backstage. When you come to Excel Backstage, here you see all the different templates. We have shipped add-in ready templates in the backstage as well. Here you can search using keywords like flowchart. And if you do flowchart, then all the templates that have flowchart as a keyword will show up in the backstage. So in this case, you can see there are 3 add-in ready templates, one for basic, cross-functional, and there is one for organization chart. We'll talk about that in detail a little bit later. And there are 2 templates where user can generate diagram from Excel. That's the process map for basic flowchart and process map for cross-function flowchart. They're also shipped by our team. To make it even more easier and accessible and discoverable for our users, we have shipped add-in on the Excel ribbon itself. So if you see here in the add-in section, you will see Visio Data Visualizer add-in right there. So as a user, you don't need to go to store, you don't need to go to backstage, you don't need to go to my add-ins menu. You can simply click here and this will insert the add-in into your Excel file. Cool. We now know what are the different ways to get the add-in. Now let's see how we can actually generate the data-driven diagrams. So for that, first example I want to take is by going to the backstage. When I go there, I just simply search using flowchart. And as I said, it will show up all the templates that have flowchart keyword in them. For example, if I'm searching for org chart template, I can simply search for keyword org. If I want a swim lane diagram, I will search for swim lane and my cross-functional flowchart template would come out. or I can search for basic, this will come out. Or if I search for data, again, all of them will come out. So in this case, I will start with the basic flowchart. I will insert the add-in into Excel file. Since we are starting from Backstage template, this template tells basically user on how to actually even use the add-in. So before I create the diagram, let's look at the help guide. In Getting Started sheet, we are providing step-by-step guidance on how a user can create diagram for a basic flowchart from data. So you can see there are details about each step. There is guidance about each step. Once you know and you want to see how to use data to generate the diagram, you simply click on Understanding Diagram Data, and then we'll take you to the next sheet, which is Understanding Diagram Data sheet. In this sheet, we explain how data is used to generate the diagram, what each column means, how two different shapes get connected, how those shapes are created. And if you see in here, right, we have description and details about each of them. From one shape, user can go to the next step. If I want to label a connector, for example, if I'm going from start to the second shape and I want to label it, I can label those connectors. And if I want to have alt text, this column is used for accessibility, and we can have information in alt text as well. Once I understand this, either I can come back to here, or let's say if I'm ready to get started, I will automatically come back to the first sheet where my add-in is inserted. One thing more I want to highlight is, since I selected the basic flowchart add-in ready template, by default, I am in the basic flowchart category. If I would have selected cross-functional flowchart or organization chart, I would have landed in that categories by default. So in this case, let me quickly pick a quick start as an example. And once I do that, based on my selection, here the data gets inserted, and you'll see corresponding to that data, the add-in is inserted here. So this is my basic flowchart diagram that is inserted in the Excel. For example, if I want to make any changes, here is the step-by-step. For example, P100 is my start, and from start it tells you what is the next step ID, which is P200. And this start is of shape type start. We have different shape types here filled in the template, where user can select based on whatever the process is. And the P200 here is decision. From decision, there are usually two ways out based on whether the decision was positive or not. And then you can see here the next step IDs are two, basically P300 and P400. And then there is a connector label for each of them, one highlighting that yes, the decision was positive, and second highlighting the decision was negative, and then there is a stop here. Now let's say if I want to make some changes here. If my decision is positive, instead of process, I want to call out proceed with the process. And as soon as I make a change, all I have to do is simply refresh, and then you will see this gets updated with the new information that I have put in. And if I want to add another row, P500, this will be finish, and I will connect that with proceed with the step. Basically, when my step is done, you simply go to finish. So P500 is a finish. I will give it the shape of N, and I simply refresh. Now you will see this gets updated based on the new shapes and new line items that I have added in the basic flowchart. Our second diagram category is cross-functional flowcharts, which are also known as swim lane diagrams. You can see here for cross-functional flowchart, there are different samples. I will select one of them, and the data and diagram in the add-in corresponding to that data will be inserted. I have already prepared my sample data, which I will simply copy paste here. This is a loan application process, which has different phases, different functions. I can now refresh this diagram, and this diagram will be reflected based on the data I have pasted here. Let me increase the size of the add-in window for better readability. I can also zoom in and zoom out to see what functions and what phases I have added here. So you can see here this cross-functional flowchart, which is loan application process. It shows different process from initiation to assessment, validation, and eventually the processing of the loan. That will be done by different people or say different functions here. Loan officer will be involved in this flow. Compliance team will be there. Accounts team will be there. Now, once the diagram is generated, I can view this diagram in web or actually even edit the diagram. For me to be able to edit the diagram, I need to be logged in into Excel with my work or school account. If I'm logged in into Excel with my work or school account, I will then automatically be logged in into addin using single sign-on. There are still few channels like Excel semi-annual where single sign-on is not supported yet. There, we will provide users the option to do manual sign-in. Those users who are not logged in with their work or school account, but are logged in with their personal accounts like hotmail.com, outlook.com, they can still go ahead and use the add-in, but with the very limited capabilities of creating and updating the diagram. So let me just go ahead and edit that, click on edit the diagram. For editing, a visual license is required. And users who don't have visual license, at this step, they will be prompted for sign up for a trial or for purchase of a license, and they can proceed the way they would like. For viewing the file in web, no visual license is required. It is required only for editing. So even our non-licensed users who do not have visual license, as long as they are signed in into Excel with their work or school account, they can view the diagram in web, print it out, download the diagram, etc. Once I click on edit, a Visio file gets created, which then gets associated with the diagram. You must have noticed here that the message was coming creating a file. So we do not create Visio file by default for two reasons. One, the diagram generation is much faster without the generation of actual Visio file. Two, every diagram generated does not need to be edited. So now let me just, since the file is already there, I will click on edit and I will open the file in web. So here I will make a quick theme change. So let's say I like, for example, this color. As soon as I select, themes get changed in the web. Now, if I go to add-in, the theme is changed here as well. So the theme that I changed in the web is now reflected in add-in. Let me quickly make a change here in the add-in. Right now it says begin. For example, I can say start. I can say start and then I will refresh the diagram. If you notice now, I'll zoom in a little bit. This diagram in the add-in it now says start instead of begin. If I go back to the web, this also says start. So the point is, any changes you make in web will be reflected back in add-in, and any changes you make in add-in will be reflected here in web. Let me go back to the add-in now. I will resize this. So we have built in a lot of checks and balances to guide our users in case of any errors that may come up while they're creating the diagram. If you still need help and not able to resolve the issue you have, you can reach out to us at tellvisio@microsoft.com. I will again share this towards the end of the session. That's tellvisio, TELLVISIO @microsoft.com. When you send us the email, please do send us the session ID so we can investigate further. You can get the session ID by clicking on this 3 dots overflow menu, about, diagnostic. And when you click that, when you click that, this will come up, copy paste and send it to us in the email.
Let's talk about org charts now, our most popular category. Again, based on your selection, diagram and corresponding data gets inserted. You can see the default schema has 5 columns, but I have prepared my own data, which I'll copy paste here. And for that, I need 3 additional columns. So I'll just go ahead and create 3 columns here, and I'll name them as email ID, area of ownership, and the number of years the person has been in the company. Now I will copy paste my data here
And as you can see, I now have email address, area of ownership, and years in the company. Let me just move it to the side a little bit. Yeah. And there are 3 open positions as well, which obviously don't have any email ID associated or have years in company. I'll now click refresh so we can have the latest up-to-date chart based on the data that I have put in. Now this is the org chart that got created based on the data I have put in. Let me zoom in a little bit. As you can see, I can increase the size of it a little bit as well. So as you can see, now this is my org chart that I generated based on the data. And this has open positions as well as different role types. Each role type has a color associated with it. Based on what role type I assign to the person, you will see the color of the shape being changed. For example, here, open positions are, for example, grayed out, whereas an executive or a manager position are towards the blue color. I will now open this org chart in web. And as always, just because I'm doing a view or an edit operation, a file is getting created. Once the file is created, I can open that file in my browser window. From here, I can click on any employee shape and open the shape info panel. Here you will see the employee info along with the additional details that I added separately in the table, like email, area of ownership, years in the company. You can also choose to leave comments on the diagram which can be viewed later. You can also share this org chart by either as an Outlook item or sharing the direct link. This org chart can also be downloaded as a Visio file, downloaded as a PDF, or downloaded as an image. You can also generate the embed code for the org chart for it to be embedded into any other document. You can also choose to edit this diagram in web or in browser based on your license. I have opened this diagram in web, and when you are there, as always, you can make the changes of your choice. This wraps up our demo for Data Visualizer add-in in Excel.
I also want to talk about the excitement we have in the MVP community for this add-in. We have had several MVPs who have done videos, blogs, social, etc. for the add-in. Many of them have done it more than once at different times to highlight add-in and its different capabilities. Before I pass it on to Prateek, I just want to leave you guys with few key points. This add-in is available for Excel 2016 onwards and for Excel for Web. Sign-in is supported for work and school accounts. It is not supported for personal accounts like Outlook.com, Hotmail.com, etc. Users can still use the add-in for personal accounts, but with limited capabilities. If you have work or school account, you can create, update, share, download, comment, print, etc. the Visio diagram that you have just created. Those users who have Visio Plan 1, they can customize edits on the Visio diagram created through the add-in. And for users who have Visio Plan 2, they get even more advanced rich editing capabilities and bidirectional data sync. And always, you can reach out to us at tellvisio@microsoft.com. Thank you so much for providing the great feedback. Feel free to reach out to us if you face any issues or would like to provide any feedback or see any specific capability for the add-in. Over to you, Prateek.
Thanks, Amit, for the wonderful demo and the presentation. Let me now talk about how you can use Visio Data Visualizer's powerful capabilities of customization and two-directional data mapping in Visio Desktop. We all understand the need and importance of creating a visual to document and communicate a process that everyone understands. Over the years, while working with many customers, we realized that there are some percentage of people who like to work visually, and they will use the canvas to create a diagram. And that is what Visio has been traditionally known for. There are other people whose minds are more in the data. They think how different steps depend on each other as data. They would like to just enter the step somewhere, and usually we see people using Excel for this. And they would like to prefer the diagram gets created from that. That's exactly what Data Visualizer is, that you start with your data and then convert it to diagram or a flowchart. There are some templates that are provided both in Visio and in Excel, and that can help you get started. There's one for creating flowcharts, one for creating cross-functional flowchart or swim lane diagram, and one for creating audit diagrams. Each of those have a corresponding Excel template that goes along with them and is shown here. If you go to Excel and File New page and search for say flowchart, you'll find the templates for cross-functional flowchart and flowchart. You'll also find some add-in ready templates that Amit just talked about. And now let's go over to a demo to see how to use them. To start creating process diagram from data, go to Excel and click on New. Here, search for flowchart. And you will find two very helpful templates that you can use to create process diagrams from Visio Desktop, and three templates that you can use with the Visio add-in. If you open this template, the first page gives you an overview of the three steps involved in creating the diagram, if you're exporting it to Visio or going to Visio and importing your Excel file. The second page explains how to fill in the data in the template and has description of each of the fields. It is very helpful the first few times you are using it. And the third page has a starter table. This one has a couple of placeholder rows. Let me show you another one that has data from a real process. The first column is a process step ID or activity ID that uniquely defines each step inside the process. Every row in the table corresponds to a shape in Visio. The second column is the process step description or activity description. Let me now talk about the shape type or the activity type column. The values here define which shapes Visio will use to show this particular step. Now, going to the next step ID column, this defines how the shapes connect to each other in the diagram. Here it shows P100 is connected to P200 and P600 is connected to both P1000 as well as P650. Connector label shows the text that will appear on the arrows. Similar to the next step ID, these are comma separated values when a shape is connected to more than one shapes. In case of a cross-functional flowchart or a swim lane diagram, we also have to describe a function and a phase for each of the steps. This is an example for a loan disbursement process, and we have a responsible team for each of the steps, and we also have a phase which describes when this step will actually happen. Now to export this table to Visio, let's go to Table Design. And under Export, let's click on Export Table to a Visio diagram. We want to create a cross-functional horizontal flowchart, and the file is based on where we exported from, and the table is also selected from the source of the data. We need to define the swim lane, which is responsible team here. And we also need to identify the column that corresponds to phase, and here it is activity phase. We also have some options available to order the way in which these swim lanes and phases will appear. Now the unique ID for the step here is activity ID. We'll define the description using the column activity description, and the shape type of the step is defined using activity type. To make the diagram more accessible, you can use a column to add the alt text on the shapes, and we'll use activity description for it. By default, the diagram uses shapes from basic flowcharts, but if you want to use some other shapes, you can use from wide variety of shapes that Visio provides. And let me throw in some shapes from the workflow objects and workflow steps. Now, I want to use custom shapes for start shape as well as end shape, and also to show the documentation step, I want to use this particular shape. Moving forward, I want to connect these shapes using a column, and that column is called next activity. Let me drop in that here. And as we saw in the Excel table, these are comma separated. And let's just click on finish. And as you can see, with a few simple clicks, the diagram was created. While reviewing this diagram, if you identify that a step is missing from here, let's say here between the preparing the loan documents and get it signed by the customer, there is a review step missing there. So we can just quickly drop in a shape here and write it, get documents reviewed. And this has to be done by the compliance team. We can write this data back to Excel using the option of update source data. Now it's going and updating the Excel table back by the new step that we just added. The data is now written back to Excel. Let's go and have a look at that. As you can see, this new step got added, which is ID P1800. And this is the next step for prepared loan documents. And this step got inserted in between. And the next step for it is P1400, which is get document signed by the customer. Visio provides two-way linkage between Excel and the Visio diagram. Let's say if you want to change the description of the step, you can even add or remove a shape and that will get reflected. Let's save this file, go back to Excel and say refresh diagram. As you can see, the description of the step got updated. Using Visio, you can also display metrics associated with the diagram. Here we have active tickets that are associated with each of the steps. Let me select the active tickets data from here. And as you can see, the metrics starts to show up on each of the shapes. You can choose to customize it using different ways available here. And let's use a speedometer here to display the active tickets on each of the shapes. You can also change the theme of the diagram. Let me use this theme to improve the readability of the diagram. And one of the very hidden features of Visio is to align these shapes, and that comes very useful. Let's align these shapes on center to remove these kinks. If I also want to display the logo of the organization on the diagram, take that and paste it here. You did some customization on top of the diagram, and you would not want to let everyone in your organization have to do these customization over and over again. So there is a very easy way to export these customization as a template and share it with the people in your organization so that it's very easy for them. To do that, let's go to design and export this. And I will go to desktop and export this as a template. Distributing this template is very easy. You just share this file, and installing it is you can install it by just double clicking on it. If I go to new and personal, we'll see that this template is installed here. Now let me create another diagram using this template this time. Go to create, and for the sake of simplicity, let's choose the same file that we used in our previous demonstration. They're here on my desktop. All the customization that I did are available by default, and I don't have to do them again. As you can see, all the columns have been selected, all the shape types have been selected, and the next activity type is also selected. I just have to do finish. And as you can see, the theme that was selected in the template, the logo of the company, and even the data graphics comes by default on the template that you provided. With this, you can make the customization very easy for everyone in your organization. To recap, today we looked at how to create process diagrams from data in Excel. We then looked at how to keep your diagram and data in sync. If you're making changes to the Visio diagram, then how to write the changes back to the Excel table. And if you're making changes to the Excel, then how to refresh the diagram. We also looked at how to show metrics stored in the Excel on top of the diagram and make further customization in the diagram, such as changing the theme and adding a logo of your organization. We then looked at how to standardize these customizations within your organization by creating a template and distributing that with everyone who would need it. And now let's go back to Amit to see how you can remain connected with Visio and use the other available resources.
Thanks, Prateek. We have set of other great sessions that you can watch and learn how to communicate your ideas visually. The one you just watched is highlighted here. We love your partnership and would love to stay connected. As you can see here, there are a few links that you can use to learn or understand more about different Visio channels that we have. We have a link where you can compare different Visio products. You can stay connected with us using Tech Community Visio blog. You can submit your feedbacks, your ideas, your suggestions using Visio's user voice. Here are the links for Twitter and Facebook. We post regular updates. Would love to stay connected with you there on those social channels as well. If you don't have Visio license today and want to give it a try, you can start today by signing up for a 30-day Visio trial. And if you have any specific question or feedback, please feel free to reach out to us. Remember, tellvisio@microsoft.com. That is tellvisio@microsoft.com. Thank you so much for watching this session. Stay happy, stay healthy.